Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going deeper. We're talking about 7 of my money mistakes and 7 financial regrets that I've done that I feel like you shouldn't do, especially if you're in your 20s and your 30s. You need to avoid it at all costs. Money management is something for myself, just like you, that I've had to learn through trials and errors. It has come with a lot of lessons learned. And just like you, most of us growing up, we weren't taught about financial planning or financial management. And so we had to struggle and make ends meet and see the good and the right path through our everyday life. I assume I'm a bit financially savvy now. There are still a lot of mistakes that I made that I wish I hadn't made, or things that I've done that have led me to this right path that I want to share with you. So I'm going to be sharing with you 7 of those mistakes that I think you should avoid and ensure that you're setting yourself out for financial success. Now, the first mistake that I've done that I've heard so many other people do is getting a loan to pay off your debt. Now, financially, I haven't always been savvy. There's been some points in my life where I've actually been in debt and I've had to pay off those debts. And I was recommended by a friend to seek out a loan. And I think I chose the Sainsbury's loan one, and I loaned out money to pay off that debt or to pay for that sort of expense that I had to pay for. And what I didn't realize was that I had put myself in further debt by loaning to pay out that debt, because not only have I just paid off the debt with that interest, but I've also now acquired a new debt that comes with a huge interest I'll be paying over the years. Of course, now I'm done paying that, but it is something that I had to take that bad curve to understand that it's really something that you shouldn't do. If anything, you want to negotiate how to pay off that actual debt, that principal debt, down as much as you can and work out a way to pay it slowly and surely, because you getting that loan to pay that debt puts you in another debt, which means that you're now having to negotiate with the new debt owners how you can work out and pay that debt, whereas you could have seek for other ways to maybe pay a bit more for the principal with your previous debt owners. So if you're ever in debt, please do not go and get a bank loan or get another loan just to pay down that debt, because that would put you in serious debt. Another one thing that I regret doing is buying for my fantasy self. And this is something that a lot of millennials do. And I'm going to explain what it is. Your fantasy self is the person that you envision yourself to be. You dream of being the person that in your dreams or in your imagination you are. Now, I struggled with my fantasy self when it came to buying clothes and buying makeup. Now, I'm someone who sticks with the neutrals and stick with what's comfortable and what seems right for every occasion. Very modest, not so outgoing or so loud. But I started living my fantasy life when I started seeking out these influencers and looking at the clothes that they bought. I saw that it looked good, and then in my fantasy self, I saw myself as one of those people who would wear these high heels, dress in all of these bold attires, wear these bold colors and makeup and all of these luxurious, hair and all of that. And what I thought was that if I only bought those things, I could bring to life what my fantasy self was. And so regardless of whether or not these clothes were in my comfortable range or in my actual specific attires that I like to wear, I bought them because it looked good on that person. And I assumed that my fantasy self would love it. So I bought all of these expensive clothes, these bold colored makeups. But what happened was that whenever I tried to dress up to go out, I would never wear these things. And so I was accumulating a lot of dresses, a lot of clothes, a lot of makeup things that I wasn't even using. And eventually I either had to give them away or even return them or just throw them away or ship them back home, which means that I was spending so much money buying things that I wasn't comfortable wearing, but I envisioned myself to wear someday or sometime. This is a lot of the cases with so many millennials out there. You see something on social media or you see someone wearing something and you assume that you would look nice with them, barring any differences between you and them, their size, their color, their skin tone, the way they're shaped. We don't look at these things, but just because they're advertising it properly, we want to buy it as well. And it leads us to purchasing so many things, expensive as well, that we probably do not need. For some people too, it could be books. You dream of having a library of maybe financial books, just like myself. And you probably aren't someone that loves reading. And so any book that is recommended by any sort of person you watch, you buy it, you store it in your bookshelf, and you don't even read it. It ends up occupying space that you could use for something else. Whereas you could even buy a Kindle version or buy an Audible version just to listen to someone else read to you as you journey to work or journey back home. But no, because of your dream to have a library, you buy all of these things and you end up wasting money and not reading the books, which ends up becoming waste that you throw away later on. Now, the thing is, once you know yourself, you'll be very less likely to buy things for something that you are not or someone that you're not, which prevents you from wasting money. So if you're growing up or you're starting to pick up on these trends, begin to understand who you are and understand the kind of person and the things that you likely wear. And don't just follow all the trends that are coming out there or anything you see on social media, because that is not who you are. Understand yourself as a person, and you'd buy things to make that person happy. The third mistake that I made that I'm still regretting now is not starting my pension or retirement planning earlier on and having to play catch up. I always thought of getting my debt down or reaching a big savings goal or making a huge purchase like buying a home before thinking about retirement, because we all think it's so far-fetched and it's so long to come. But one thing I didn't realize was that the earlier I started to plan for my retirement, the earlier and easier it would be for me to retire early and retire young and enjoy my life. But no, I didn't think of that. I thought of getting my debt down and saving. And what happened was that every time I saved or every time I got a debt down, there was another financial goal that I wanted to reach. And eventually, retirement seemed to be something that was long, to reach, or it's going to be hard to reach. But one thing that I'm advising you to do is to ensure that even if it's just 1% of your income that you put down towards retirement, it is still something. And the earlier you start, the more you build up compared to someone who starts at the age of 30 or starts at the age of 40. It's easy for you to save more when you're 15 or 20 and growing up than to save later on when you're old and you aren't even able to work as much as you could work in your younger days. Another really silly mistake that I did was wasting most of my savings and most of my money on my dream African wedding. Now, if you're an African just like myself, growing up, you see all of these beautiful weddings and vendors showcasing their talents and abilities on Bella Naija, Ghana weddings, and all of these blogs that, when you see on Instagram, it just catches your eye. And so when I was due to get married, I had all of these posts saved up, all of these vendors saved up that I wanted to use just so I could look like the things that they showcased. What I didn't realize was that maybe you could take inspiration from them, but actually spend less than what they're offering by seeking out other vendors and seeking to ways to make your wedding your own. But no, because I had that dream of that luxury and that dream of that big wedding, I spent so much money. And now, if I was to do it again, I'll probably spend less money and save that money towards maybe getting a house and do just a little classic intimate wedding. My advice to anyone that is trying to get married now, don't waste all your money on that dream wedding that you see showcased online, because some of these vendors, it's just something that they're doing for advertisement. It's not actual brides and grooms. It's just a stage that they've set up to ensure that it entices you to buy into it, and you end up buying into. Sit down with your partner or your proposed husband to be and think about ways you could do so much with that money rather than spending it all on that dream big wedding. And some people even go as far as even getting into debt for it as well. Another silly mistake that I did was not having an emergency fund saved up. And I think I mentioned it in my previous video about how important it is to even have one saved up. But because I was living paycheck to paycheck and living my life as I pleased and ensuring that I bought the things that were pleasing to me at that time, I wasn't able to even have extra funds to then save up for an emergency, which meant that anytime that I needed money urgently to maybe pay for a passport renewal or pay for, a gadget for my work, or my laptop was broken, I had to go into debt for that or go overdraft for that. And that was something that I kept doing until I realized how much it was affecting my finances and how better it is to have some money saved up just for these emergencies. And so that's something that I would recommend to anyone, to have one if you haven't got an emergency fund saved up. Another mistake that we all do, even up until now, that is something that is silly that you should stop doing, is spending too much money on takeout and buying lunch at work and doing all of these things that you could actually meal prep for and spend less for. Now, I understand most of us just want to go with the flow and eat whatever we feel like eating because there's Uber Eats and Deliveroo available. What you don't realize is that all of these meals that they sell to entice you, you could actually prepare them for far less at your house and meal prep them for several days ahead without having to spend so much money on. I know we live in the millennial age where we want things whenever we want them, as soon as possible and instantly, but it's really, really advisable if you want to save money and ensure you reach your financial freedom quickly, to make sure that you're meal prepping your meals and budgeting for the meals that you want to go buy for takeout or even go out to eat with your friends. What I didn't realize at that time was that not only was I buying lunch at work, but I was also going to the corner shops to get snacks in the middle of the day. And what happened was that all of these £1, £2 purchases were adding up at the end of every month. Not just that, but at the end of every work shift or every Friday, maybe myself and some colleagues may want to go out and buy dinner or go out and just eat out just to spend time with ourselves. And that was also adding up to my expenditure. And that was something that was really, really bringing down my finances. And this is something that you want to look into if you're looking to reach financial freedom. Now, the last but not the least, one silly mistake that I kept doing was not reading the fine print when it came to trials or 30-day trials and contracts and stuff like that. Especially now, there's so many companies that when they are coming up with their products or coming up with their services, they offer an introductory 30-day free trial. And most of us get sucked into it, forgetting that we've put our bank details in there, that at the end of the 30 days, it's going to come out of our account. Now, if you're not someone who's quite savvy and writes these days down or create a reminder for yourself before the due date comes out, you forget it. And one time I got sucked into having to pay for a whole year's worth of a streaming service that I didn't even need. I just needed to watch one movie, but I signed up onto it. I wanted to watch the movie. I watched it, forgot about it, and the next month they took the whole year's worth because apparently I had clicked on the year's payment rather than a monthly payment, and I got sucked into it. This is something that most of us millennials do, and that's something that you want to avoid. Make sure you're reading all the fine prints and ensuring that if there's anything that you need to negotiate, you're able to negotiate and cancel beforehand before you lose all your money to these streaming sites as well. So these are 7 of the mistakes that I've done. I believe there's more, but this is what I'm happy to share at the moment. Now, I believe you've made your own fair share of financial mistakes, and if you could comment down below, someone else could benefit from understanding the mistakes you made and how well you overcame them as well. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel, give this video a like, and share with friends and family. And I'll see you next week. Bye, guys.